Overcoming anxiety with Stoic techniques. Anxiety originates internally. The source of our uneasiness is us. Therefore, we can throw it away, as Marcus stated. We can disregard it. We can overcome our anxiety. Several years ago, I was in a bad place. I felt as though I was losing control of my thoughts and was dealing with crippling anxiety. Since I was experiencing panic episodes one after the other, I genuinely believed I was going to die. The event was horrifying, and I was overcome with fear. I didn't grasp what was happening to me because I wasn't educated about mental health at the time. I had no idea how strong my ideas might be, and I was unprepared for the entire event. I needed some time to comprehend everything and come to terms with what was happening to me. I have to admit that at first I truly resisted this diagnosis because of my ignorance and fear of being mad. I became preoccupied with how I saw the situation rather than the facts because I was so concerned about the stigma attached to mental health. The doctor had recommended talk therapy and a cognitive behavioral therapy course as strategies to deal with my anxiety, but I wanted to weigh my alternatives and learn more about what was going on with me first. I could always choose to get CBT or therapy later. I started reading to make an informed choice about how to handle my anxiety. This was a serious endeavor, not merely something to read for pleasure. I became obsessed with reading as many books as I could because I was so focused on trying to understand what was going on in my head. I needed answers badly. I discovered a plethora of quite helpful concepts during this intense research period. I read about growth mindsets, Buddhism, and cognitive behavioral therapy. I read a ton of books about philosophy, psychology, self-help, and mental wellness. Both memoirs and biographies are books I read. I included anything that could assist me in better understanding my anxiousness. Never in my life have I absorbed so much content. I discovered Stoicism while doing all of this research. Everything altered as a result. I immediately identified with and felt a strong connection to the concepts of Stoicism. Reading about how this age-old idea could improve my life was fascinating to me. I found the idea's practicality appealing, and the guidance seemed ageless. From negative visualization to how we react to circumstances beyond our control, there were a lot of ideas that I found beneficial. This was especially great for my panicked thinking. More Stoic philosophy began to appear on my ever-expanding reading list as my reading preferences began to shift. I realized how helpful it was to have a philosophy of life as I gained a deeper understanding of it. And figuring out how to live a decent life is essentially what Stoicism is all about. However, there was one specific Stoic idea that genuinely transformed my life. I attribute this to significantly shifting my perspective and improving my relationship with anxiety. This was what voluntary discomfort was all about. To prepare for future difficulties, the Stoics would purposefully subject themselves to hardship. This is best summed up by the Stoic philosopher Musonius Rufus. When we become accustomed to cold, heat, hunger, thirst, lack of food, hard beds, denying joys, and suffering for a long time, we are training our bodies and souls. I had a strong connection to this concept for some reason. Although I was aware that going to the gym would increase my physical strength, I had not previously given much thought to developing a robust mind. The various methods the Stoics would accomplish this motivated me and made me consider how I could design a mental training regimen. When I originally came across this idea, I had a lot of questions. What scenarios and concepts could I employ to strengthen my resilience? Will I be able to manage my anxiety with this? Can I test out all the philosophy I've been reading about on this platform? Will this work? It seems counterintuitive. I started developing a list of personal tasks to test out this concept of deliberate discomfort, but my mind was racing. Eventually, I worked up the guts to do it, and like the Stoics, I started using difficulties to toughen myself up. My confidence increased as I finished more. I sensed a shift in my thinking, which was beneficial. I realized the usefulness of this concept when I stopped experiencing panic episodes. I leaned in and gave the Stoic idea of practicing adversity my whole attention. While some of my problems were directly inspired by the Stoics, others were only marginally so. But most of the problems were centered around how I practice pain and step outside of my comfort zone. They began modestly because I was already in a highly nervous state, but they gradually grew into more ambitious and daring endeavors. Here are a few instances. I went on a long-distance walk, climbed mountains, and ran my first marathon to challenge my body. I tried new and unfamiliar sports, finished triathlons, and pushed myself in the gym in a variety of ways. I gained knowledge about my mind and how it reacts to weariness while battling physical adversity and fatigue. These obstacles caused me a great deal of physical agony, which I practiced handling positively. I began studying new talents and paying attention to what my mind was doing to push my mind even further. Examining my relationship to the frustrations I experienced was fascinating. Since I began learning Japanese, I can almost conduct a conversation in the language without experiencing severe cerebral pain. I learned how to pick locks, juggle, fold intricate origami, and solve a Rubik's Cube in less than a minute. Yes, there were some very strange challenges. I've gone on innumerable excursions and accomplished things I never would have imagined possible since I began investigating voluntary discomfort. This entire experience even inspired my first book, which was released in June 2020, but that's another story. However, this is only the beginning. I have been taking on a lot more tasks in the spirit of bettering myself. It's reasonable to say that since learning about this empowering Stoic idea, my life has changed significantly. I no longer get panic attacks and am in control of my anxiety. I'm so happy to have discovered this tool. The challenges allowed me to test out the concepts I had been reading about in a somewhat controlled setting and forced me to step outside of my comfort zone in a variety of ways. I've learned so much about who I am and how I handle challenges thanks to them. It's great to lean into Stoicism when I'm 22 miles into a marathon and my mind is pleading with me to quit. This is the ideal time for me to accept discomfort when I'm going through an ice bath. This is a great moment for me to focus on my thinking while I'm pushing myself with a challenging task, learning a new skill, or resolving issues. I've been able to overcome these obstacles and give them a greater purpose thanks to this philosophical framework. Seeing everything as a kind of mind training enables me to provide significance to each task I accomplish. This eventually began to affect other aspects of my life, and I was able to use everyday issues as a chance to push myself. The ideal test of patience is traffic. A rude person is the ideal way to gauge and regulate my reaction. This has been a fantastic method for me to reframe difficult situations, and there are many more examples. Even though I don't always pass the test, I may learn from life's challenges by viewing it as such. According to the Stoic view, whether they are ones you choose to face or ones that are thrown at you. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and drop a comment below to let us know what you think.